Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Bird Burger Live for the first time ever. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous today because for the first time I'm actually live as opposed to pre-recorded, so every little mistake you guys are gonna catch. It's gonna be available publicly, but I'm really excited to be joining with you guys today. Today we're gonna be answering questions. It's gonna be an awesome just conversation between you guys and me. Gonna be answering questions, whether that's anything from how I filmed a certain video to maybe how I take a certain type of shot or what type of gear that I like or whatever you guys have questions for. I'm ready to answer and excited to talk with you guys about. Before we move on, just to make sure, check out the new hats I made if you haven't seen them already. I made 3 different types of camouflage hats, these black hats as well with my minimalist Hawk Eagle logo design, the Inspire on the side. I released a poll about a month ago asking you guys if you guys would be interested in them, and I got a lot of good feedback saying that they would want to purchase them, so the link will be in the description below after this live because I realized right now as I'm filming this that I forgot to include it in the description, so will be what it is. But yeah, so excited for that with you guys. So let me know what city you guys are from, what city you guys are watching from today, where you guys are from. Let me know what you like to photograph. Let me know in the chat, in the comments right here, if you guys like to photograph birds, mammals, reptiles, whatever it may be. I'd love to know, just get to see a little bit of what you guys like to do. So let me know about that. Just to let you guys know, there is a little bit of a delay between the chat and me recording, so there's about a 10-second delay. So if you see that going on, that's not due to, yeah, you guys on your end. There's a little bit of a delay between the two. So yeah, there we go. We got some pulling in. Salem, Indiana. IN is Indiana, I believe, right? And Birds, Landscape, awesome. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for being on this live with me. And I'm sure we will get more people streaming in as we go. So another exciting thing is that before we dive into the questions, I got a really cool announcement to announce at the end of this live. So we'll be talking about a really cool new thing that we have going on that is not announced publicly yet, but I've been working on for almost 6 months now. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Holy fire, I see that owls is definitely the #1 thing for you. That's about all I see on your Instagram. Anything related to nature, awesome. Good evening, Tamid. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Sorry for butchering that, but nice to be on this with you guys. As we go through, I'll also be talking about some of my favorite YouTube channels and why I like these specific YouTube channels for you guys to check out as well if you haven't already. So that'll be a kind of a fun little bonus in this process. So again, if you're just coming in, let me know what city you're from, what you like to photograph. You like to photograph birds, mammals, reptiles, whatever it may be, and we can start diving into the questions. So let me know whatever questions you guys have going on. If you guys have any conversational points that you guys want to bring up, and we can start talking about some of that. Can talk about anything from how I film my YouTube videos, the process of that, to some tips in terms of maybe how I photograph portrait birds, how I photograph birds in flight, whatever it may be, what type of gear I like. Let me know whatever you guys are interested in learning about. Excited about today. I'll start by talking about sharing one of my favorite channels as we're waiting for these questions to come in. So one of my favorite channels, this one will be a pretty obvious one that most of you guys most likely will know, but one of my favorite channels is Bayou Josh on YouTube. You guys probably know who Bayou Josh is, but I really like his channel and value the content a lot, largely because he has pioneered a new style of wildlife photography on YouTube. To be honest, we kind of get a lot of the same thing going on in wildlife photography YouTube, a lot of the same thing over and over, but Bayou Josh has really offered something unique and different and new in his style. He's pioneered a whole new kind of genre, combining kind of philosophical thought with wildlife photography adventures, as well as gear talk with wildlife photography adventures, and done a really good job of that. So if you haven't seen Bayou Josh's channel already, I'd highly recommend going to check him out. We got some questions coming in, so nice to see you, Keith. Thanks for being on here. Excited to have you on here. Keith has an awesome channel as well, if you guys have not checked out Keith's channel. So we got a question from sorry, I'm gonna butcher that name again. Tamid, sorry for mispronouncing the name, but is background important for photography, specifically bird photography? Yes, I'd argue it's hugely important. It's probably one of the most important compositional aspects. You can have, just go out and try this yourself. Take a picture of a bird against maybe like an overblown, overexposed sky. One of the worst backgrounds you can typically get in most scenarios, unless you're going for a certain type of high key style. Compare that and then take a same shot of the bird at maybe eye level where you get green in the background, something like that. That's a very simple comparison, noticing that difference between backgrounds and how much that drastically affects your image. Mostly in two ways. Number one, aesthetically, it affects your image a lot. So just making it more pleasing to look at, right? But then number two, it also provides context. Background provides a lot of context to your image. So if you have a background where you're shooting down on a bird in water, for example, and all you're getting is it's smashed against the water, a lot of times that doesn't provide a really good background because there's no context to what's going on. All you see is just water around it. Versus if you're getting down at eye level, you can get a little bit more scenery. Maybe you can get some sand in the background on a beach bar. You can get a tree in the background in addition to that water. And all of that comes together, all of that comes together to create a really good scene for the image that you took. So background is hugely important. Nice to see you, Kevin. Thanks for being on here. Johnny says, I'm looking to upgrade from a micro four thirds system to something full frame. If you could recommend any one mirrorless camera body, what would it be? Oh man, that's a tricky one. So, oh gosh, any full frame, mirrorless camera body. I would ask first, I guess, what your budget is. If you're on a like sub $2,000 budget or around $2,000 budget, the R7 that just came out by Canon looks really, really good. I'd highly recommend that one. It gives you a lot of what you want as a bird photographer specifically, or a wildlife photographer specifically, while still being at a pretty priceable and good budget range. But if you have a much larger budget, I think the Sony A1 has really proved itself to be just phenomenal, fantastic. I don't think you can really go wrong with that one. The Nikon Z9 also seems to be a really great option in my opinion. Both of those two, the Sony and Nikon though, are really pricey, so obviously that depends on your budget. But if you're on a lower budget, I'd go for Canon R7, which I just realized that as I'm talking about this, the Canon R7 is not a full frame, sorry, it's an APS-C, but it can use full frame lenses. It can give you a lot of the quality of a full frame. It's not quite there, but it can give you a lot of it. So that would be my recommendation, Johnny. Thanks for the shout out on the shirt, Kevin. I was hoping, I was gonna wait till someone commented on this, on the chat on this, but got all the different types of tits and thought it'd be fun to throw in for the live today. Holy fire. So actually let's talk about one more channel before you get to that question. Keep throwing questions in the comments below, you guys. If you guys have questions, if you're just coming on, go ahead and let me know what city you're from too. We got some from North Carolina, Indiana, Arizona, UK, all over the world. I think 25% of my audience is US based, 75% is other countries based. I know I have a lot from the UK, India, Norway, some other places as well. So very cool, excited to have all you guys. Sharing my favorite channels. So let's talk about the next one. I wanted to talk about, in my opinion, the two most underrated channels on wildlife photography YouTube. So number one, Andrew McDonald. If you guys have not heard of Andrew McDonald, I think he does some phenomenal content. And number two, Watts Wildlife. If you haven't heard of him, phenomenal content as well. Both of them are slightly smaller wildlife photography YouTubers, but still decent size. And they craft incredible stories, and they really know how to tell stories well, which is what I love watching on YouTube. So it's very exciting to see their content, and they create really creative and innovative content. So go ahead and check out Andrew McDonald and Watts Wildlife if you haven't already. Both of them, great channels. Sorry, we got some banging going on in the background, so just ignore that if you guys are hearing that. But let's get back to the questions. Holy Fire Photography asks, what is your primary gear? favorite lens. My primary gear, I use a Panasonic S1R. I'm Panasonic gang, which I know that's virtually almost none of you guys. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Micro Four Thirds system guys, followers that I have, a lot of you guys use Panasonic. But full frame world, I'm one of the only guys who uses Panasonic. So yeah, so that's a little bit of an outcast use or equipment or arsenal there that I have. Honestly, it comes down a lot to I got it at an amazing price back when I bought it. I got it 50% off brand new. It was an unreal deal I found back in the day. So that was part of it. And then since then, financially, I'm young. I'm an independent contractor. I run my own business, videography full-time. I shoot commercials. So for my wife and I, money is not necessarily floating around in the air. So until I feel like I really need to upgrade, I'm just going to stick with that Panasonic S1R, which there are better options out there undoubtedly right now. But the Panasonic S1R is really nice as well. 47 megapixels, handles low light pretty decently. The one thing that it gets bagged on largely for is just its autofocus system. It totally sucks, to be honest. But that would be that. And then favorite lens, out of the ones that I own, I really love my Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter sports lens that they made specifically for the L mount, which is my Panasonic system. That's my favorite one that I own, largely because in videography, it allows me to zoom in and out, right? I can take that focal length back, take it all the way in, and for telling my wildlife photography YouTube stories, incredibly, incredibly important. So that's really why I value that one a lot personally. But in terms of any lens out there, I mean, if I really had to choose and combine it with whatever body, I'd probably go for something like a 600 millimeter f4 by a lot of those different brands out there. Nikon's new 800 millimeter, or what was it? I think it was the 800 millimeter 5.6 that they released recently, was at a pretty good price. That was pretty surprising. And so that looks pretty cool, but lots of really great options out there. But personally, for videography, that zooming feature is so key for me. And that's really why I love that and why I keep that. Aaron, thank you for your comment about the nice merch drop. Aaron Richter, so if you guys see him in the chat about a minute or two ago, he's actually my cousin who was on that video with me earlier this year. So shout out to Aaron for being on here. Paul Valerio, what are your thoughts on electronic shutter? I shoot exclusively electronic shutter, but are there times you recommend not using electronic shutter? So unless you have a brand new camera body that can shoot, it's like a hybrid, and I forget what it's called right now, but there's a few really expensive camera bodies that have come out recently that can shoot electronic shutter in the same manner that you would theoretically shoot a mechanical shutter. The difference between electronic and mechanical shutter, if you don't know, conventionally, is mechanical shutter will take the whole image all at once, so it'll snap it all at once. Everything will process at the same exact moment, versus an electronic shutter, it'll read it line by line. So your sensor will actually read through the image line by line. And the problem that presents in wildlife and bird photography is in fast-moving subjects, you actually get tilts in your subjects. So like if you're panning one direction or another, gosh, I gotta stop hitting that. If you're panning one direction or another, you're gonna wind up getting a tilt in your image, and you're gonna wind up getting like a slightly skewed bird in flight, for example, or a slightly skewed fox running across the ground. And so it's actually pretty important to shoot mechanical shutter in conventional camera systems for that reason alone, with fast moving subjects. With birds on a perch, or animals on a perch, sorry, I'm a bird photographer, so I always talk about birds. But for animals on a perch, generally, you can get away with electronic shutter okay. But for things that are moving fast, electronic shutter will give you distortion in your images. So hopefully that helps you out in your thought. And I would recommend not using electronic shutter really ever, in my opinion, just because it's not as good on these conventional camera systems. But if you want to save your mechanical shutter some, or if you really want to be quiet, you can squeeze it into a lot of scenarios as well. So great question there. That's an awesome question. Let's see. Jamin's channel, Holy Fire Photography, Jamin's channel is awesome as well. You're totally right. Yeah, let's talk about another channel really quick. Let's talk about the original, the OG wildlife photography adventure genre. And Tron Westby was specifically my inspiration for getting into wildlife photography on YouTube. The way he told a story, it was so inspirational, so climatic, so emotional. And he has a great channel as well. So I'd recommend going to check out his channel too, if you haven't already. Thanks for the encouragement, Holy Fire. Love it, love it, love it. Aaron says, do you prefer to go birding by yourself or with others? That's a good question. That's a very good question. And KG, actually, Keith, KG's photography question, chase the wildlife or sit and wait for it. Those two kind of go hand in hand. I'll talk about both of them at the same time. So birding by myself or with others, or wildlife photography. Birding, so actually, yeah, those are two different answers. Birding, I love going birding with other people as opposed to by myself. I think birding is a much more fun experience with people. Wildlife photography, though, I like to go by myself more. Occasionally I do go with other people, but I like to go by myself more. And the reason for that being that a lot of people, if they don't have the patience to sit around and be patient and look for that good artistic shot, right? It can kind of ruin your experience or make you not get the shot you're hoping for. Personally, I just feel such a responsibility to whoever I'm with to make sure they're having fun that I feel like I'm like rushed trying to get a shot, and I don't like that feeling. So I do like doing wildlife photography better by myself, but birding I like to do more with other people because that's a little bit more of just like an observing, wow, we saw it, you know, kind of doing a check mark together. Keith's question though, chasing the wildlife or sitting and wait for it. That's a hard question. That's a really hard question. I really like the hybrid style of the two of them. Very rarely will you find me sitting, I have done it multiple times, but very rarely will you find me sitting in one location for 6-7 hours straight waiting for a wildlife species. But you also will never find me just chasing after the species, just, you know, just constantly running after them. And also, I mean, we're actually talking about this on next week's podcast with the guests that I have coming on, but it doesn't lead to great ethics in a lot of scenarios because you might wind up doing a little bit more damage than you want to do. But mostly even, it just doesn't give you as good of images when you're constantly chasing, right? So it's a little bit better, in my opinion, to feel out the situation, be patient, sit around, and then when the time's right, feel it out, approach them slowly, and make sure they're behaving naturally the whole time, and find those better angles as you're going about it. So I think it's a little bit of a combination of the two for me. So that's a great question, though. I love that question, Keith. Owen, what are your opinions on DSLR cameras? You never really talk about it in videos and recommendations. Okay, yeah, I actually, I am familiar with them. I teach classes for photography, not just wildlife photography. I teach a lot of people through my YouTube channel individually, but I actually teach in-person classes to people in Fresno as well. I've used DSLR cameras in the past. A lot of those students have DSLR cameras. I am familiar with them. My opinion is that they are no longer an investment worth being made into just because everything will eventually be mirrorless. I mean, companies are starting to totally drop their DSLR lines or at least phase them out. So in terms of investments, it doesn't really make sense. But with that being said, DSLRs can be fantastic. They can be fantastic cameras. So that's not to say that they aren't fantastic cameras. They're just not going to be supported in the future as we move forward. So there's not a lot of sense, in my opinion, in investing into DSLR camera bodies. DSLRs also, if you had to choose one, even beyond future-proofing it, I just prefer mirrorless because it's so much easier. You don't have to learn how to meter any of those different things. And so yeah, that's kind of my short thought on it. I've actually been thinking about making a video between those two, comparing DSLRs and mirrorless. So I might be doing that, especially getting a comment like this. You're right, I never do talk about them. But yeah, I'll consider making a video on that. So thanks for the comment, Owen. You're welcome, Paul. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the R7? Would it be worth upgrading from the 7D Mark II? Great question, Nathan. I have a video on that, sharing my thoughts in a 5-minute video, super short, on my channel. So I'd recommend to you, Nathan, going and checking that out afterwards on my channel. You can pull up my R7 video, super quick 5-minute explanation on why I think the R7 is good. Personally, I think that would be a great upgrade from you, but I'll let you make that decision for yourself. But go and check out my video on that. I think that you'll find a lot of value just in the thought of why the R7 is valuable and who it's made for. So go ahead and check that out, and I think that'll be helpful to you. Chris, cropped sensor or full frame for wildlife? Great question. If you have the money, I think full frame always will win. But if you don't have the money and if you're on a budget, like most of us, crop sensor can get pretty dang close on a lot of scenarios, depending on the crop sensor camera, of course. So, for example, the new Canon R10, it's not going to get that close to a full frame. But the new Canon R7, that will get pretty close to a full frame. So crop sensor cameras can be fantastic. But if you have unlimited budget and money, a full frame is always going to do better because you can always get better low light resolution, better megapixels fit into it. You can take that huge lens that you just shot with, and even though you do get a little bit more crop on the APS-C, with the full frame with unlimited megapixel counts and great quality and a great quality lens glass in your lens, you can crop in and post to be even better. So my thought is, if you have unlimited budget, always full frame. Let's see. So, let's see. Kevin, do you have another niche you practice when not shooting wildlife? What are your thoughts on macro or landscape? Love that question. That's a great question. Another kind of genre that I like to practice that I'm not doing wildlife photography on is I do love doing landscape photography. However, I don't do it often. I have to find myself really inspired by a location to do landscape photography. It's not like personally I go out looking for landscapes to shoot constantly, but rather it's like if I'm going to go up to Yosemite, which is one of the most famous places in the world, right? And it's about 3 hours away from my house, that I'm going to do some landscape photography there, or other locations. When I'm walking about, occasionally I might see something as well. I do as well. This is my full time is doing commercial work for clients, doing video work actually. So, I mean, that's not necessarily photography, but that's what I do, is shooting videos for people, making commercials, making social media content. So I do kind of practice that in a way constantly. Going back to a YouTube channel. So talking about another YouTube channel that I'd recommend checking out, Duade Patone. If you have not checked out his channel, I had the honor of having him on about 2-3 weeks ago. Duade Patone has an awesome gear review channel. He is the best channel, in my opinion, for wildlife photography specific gear reviews. He does a great job of comparing things side by side, giving you very straight to the point, very direct comparisons. And it's the best, most honest stuff out there. He's very honest about all this stuff. It's very down to earth, very, very real. And he's not trying to just sell you something all the time too. So Duade Patone, awesome channel if you're looking for gear reviews. We got a couple questions on gears going on here. And so yeah, I'd recommend checking out his channel if you're interested in gear reviews. Let's move back into some questions. Do I have a Discord server? No, I currently do not. But that's something that may be coming in the future. So I do Discord servers with my students that are part of my mentorship programs, but not one that's publicly available. For those of you guys who are in and haven't been around for too long, at the end of this live, which we'll probably go for another 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be announcing something really cool. So make sure you stay to the end, and I'll be talking about something I've been working on for 6 months now, no joke. And it's going to be really exciting. Going to be talking about something publicly for the first time ever, and it's going to be pretty cool. So stick around for a little bit longer. We got a few more questions we're going to get through. What's a good gift for a photographer? Man, I guess, Nicholas, I'll circle back to your question. You said $15 to $30 range, but let me know, is it wildlife photography specifically, or is it a different type of photography? Aaron asks, what is your favorite bird? Great question. Scarlet macaws in Costa Rica was the first, I guess it's the best wildlife photography, bird photography experience I've ever had. I got into wildlife photography through birding, actually, in Costa Rica. And when I was in Costa Rica, I was walking about, and the first bird that ever caught my eye and got me interested in birding was a Lessons Moltmalt, an incredible bird. Without making this kind of too long right now, basically that captivated me, opened my eyes to kind of this natural world around me. And then about a month later, I went out searching for scarlet macaws, which are, I believe, a near threatened or actually endangered. I can't remember currently what they are, but they're a rare species either way. And there's this one place in Costa Rica where every evening at sunset, they all go from the beach up into the jungle hills. And if you're in the right spots, you'll just see them flying in pairs because they're loyal creatures. They stick together, flying in pairs across the sky and calling for an hour-long straight, just solid scarlet macaws throughout the sky. Incredible experience, unforgettable. Definitely my favorite bird I've ever gotten to witness in real life. So yeah, if I had to choose one that I haven't seen in real life, my number one goal, birding wise, is finding a harpy eagle. So someday that will be a thing. Cool. No problem, Chris. We got a question from Philu. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name wrong. Wildlife is outdoors, it says. How do you balance it with your relationship? So I'm assuming, are you talking about my relationship, kind of everything else in general? Or are you talking about my wife specifically? Let me know, and I'll answer that question in a second. Nicholas asked, a gift for wildlife photography, good $15 to $30 gift. I mean, personally, I love camo gear. I'm a sucker for camo gear. I just made a video on camo gear a week ago on my main channel. So if you haven't checked that out, you can check that out, Nicholas. You can just type in my name on YouTube if you aren't following my main channel, which is just Jeremy Knipe. So JeremyNeipp. And you can check out my camo review that I just made a week ago. There's some great $15 to $30 options in that range. Beyond that, in the $15 to $30 range, there's not a lot of really good options for actual physical camera gear, because a lot of things are pretty expensive. So it's really hard to get an actual good like photography camera piece in that range. You could get something like a mini tripod or something like that, but nothing too significant. Yes, totally. My camo hat. That's right. Thank you, Holy Fire Photography. My camo hat. Nicholas, go check this out on my Etsy shop. I just released these camo hats, no joke, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and they come in 3 different designs. Super cool. They have my minimalist Hawk Eagle logo design on there, my Inspire branding on the side, and they are really cool. I love them. They actually work. They're multicam official, so they have different design styles according to what kind of environment scenario you find yourself in. So check that out. I believe that might be in my description below on this video already. I might have forgotten to put it on there. So if I did, just check that out in my camo review on my main channel. So thanks, Nicholas. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go back to this. So Philu asks, how do you balance my outdoor relationship with my wife? Friends come after wildlife. I love that. So wife, my relationship with my wife, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I very much put wildlife photography on the back burner to my personal relationship. Which is, I think, the way it should be. I mean, my wife is my priority. So, I mean, this sounds crazy because this is my thing, right? This is what I do. But to be honest, I usually only get out about once or twice a week to do wildlife photography, not that often. I wish I could do it way more, but I'm trying to manage my current job, which is shooting commercials for people, as well as trying to maintain this YouTube channel, which is really, really what I love. I wind up only getting out 1 or 2 mornings a week, and I always go in the morning, so honestly, it doesn't interfere with my time with my wife, and I usually always spend my nights, my evenings with my wife. So yeah, I love that question, but yeah, no, that's definitely important to prioritize. I think that ultimately wildlife photography, nature is a beautiful gift and experience to get to take part in, right? But it's second to human relationships in my mind, at least. It's something that I absolutely love, and I'm so thankful I get to experience, but human relationships will always be the pinnacle of kind of, I guess, meaning for me on this earth, that with a combination of my faith, just being able to, care for people around me and spend time in communion with them. So, yeah, that's not like a super specific answer. Occasionally, I really don't anymore because I know my environment so well. If I really need to identify a bird that I don't know, I use the Audubon app personally because I'm in the United States. Audubon has probably the most comprehensive app in my opinion, for United States people. However, if you aren't in the United States or Canada, Audubon is it's not going to work for you, right? So that's the app that I use if I need to. But eBird is my number one researching app. eBird is a phenomenal website for researching. So if you need to research where species are, different behaviors, different seasonal patterns, eBird by far the best thing to do. So yeah, that answers that question. Let's dive into one more channel that I want to recommend. Well, maybe two more, but at least one more. So best new channel for learning. There's been a lot of new channels that have been coming up, especially since COVID, right? We've seen a lot of new wildlife photography YouTube channels, but the best new channel that launched about 3 months ago is Simon Dentremont. If you guys have not checked out his channel already, amazing tips and tricks that he teaches about bird photography specifically. For being someone so new into it, he is doing a phenomenal job at crafting videos. But really what he's good for on his channel is just learning different tips on how to photograph birds well. So if you guys are interested in learning better bird photography, he has a great channel. So I'd recommend going to check out his channel. Let's dive into the next question. So Keith, how much planning do you do to get the shot? Oh, that is a great question. That is probably my favorite question of the day. So thanks for the question, Keith. I do lots of planning. To be honest, I probably do. I mean, I wouldn't say that. That's an over-exaggeration. But I do a lot of planning. I was going to say I do as much planning as I do shooting, but that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration. But I do a lot. Where some may be located, stuff like that. And then I try to go out and get the shots that I'm hoping for. The second way that I approach it is through just going out, and sometimes I'll just have a birding day where I'll just go out, just experience nature, see what I see around, and I'll see an opportunity, and then I'll take advantage of that opportunity, specifically figuring out, okay, like maybe this will offer me a good setup in this scenario. A great example is I'm actually currently working on a video, so it's not the one releasing tomorrow, but it's going to be the one releasing probably in like 3 weeks from now or so. It takes me a while to get these videos done, but I'm currently working on shooting a bird that I was just out birding for, and I happened to see this bird, and I then came back and trying to discover how can I capture this bird well and what angles work well in this specific scenario. Another great example of planning to get the shot is my crow video that you probably, I guess, some of you guys have seen, but the crow video I did back in March where I shot them in the middle of the night against the moon, that was a great combination of like just seeing an opportunity in the moment, planning it for literally a month long. I planned how can I get this shot that I'm hoping for with the correct latitude of the moon in the sky, a full moon, the correct positioning. So I went to the location 2 times ahead of time to scout out where on the parking garage I need to be standing, so on and so forth, and then got the shots in that short kind of 20 to 30 minute window that I had time to get the shots for. So I think planning is everything, and I think that's really the thing that sets apart an amazing wildlife photographer from maybe someone who is just kind of maybe just doing it more for fun or just cause, you know, something like that. So that would be my thought there. Thanks Ivan. Thanks for the shout out. And yeah, thank you guys for all your questions. Some awesome questions. I'm really enjoying them. So I wanted to tell you guys really quick about an announcement that I had. Let's see. Curious to see really quick. Cool. You guys are going to be the first ones hearing about this. So for 6 months, I've been working on something really big, really huge, and this has not been publicly talked about yet. So this is the first time it's ever going to be sneak peeked, but I have been working for 6 months on putting together a wildlife photography competition hosted by wildlife photography YouTubers, giving away thousands of dollars in prizes. So this is pretty cool and exciting. Let me know what you think in the chat, but it will be very, very, very exciting. I've been working for a long time putting the sponsors together, putting together the system of how it's going to work, and it's going to be hosted by a lot of your favorite wildlife photography YouTubers. A lot of the ones I've mentioned already earlier in this video, but I'll keep it a secret in terms of which ones specifically are going to be on there. It'll be really, really exciting. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. It'll be launching in 2 weeks from now, and you guys will get a lot more details on it in terms of how you can win. There's going to be, like I said, huge cash prizes. The grand prize is going to be $1,000 in cash, sorry, lost my train of thought, and lots more in terms of sponsored prizes. So it should be really cool, really exciting, and I'm excited to throw that out there to you guys. So that's about it. We got one more question coming in from Nicholas, and then we will wrap it up. So Nicholas asks, I just saw your Etsy What's Birdscapes. You created that card game. Yes, I did. So I actually created a video a while ago, even on this channel, where you can check out a little bit more in detail the game that I created and a little bit more about it. So if you want to go back, Nicholas, and check that out, I did. I created the story of that is it's been longer than that. 3 years ago. Let's see, what's the date today? Yep. 3 years ago, I created a card game based on real life bird behaviors and everything. It's really cool. It basically replicates bird behavior in a game style format, in a cartoon style format. All of the images on the cards are pictures that I've taken and just cartoonized. Created a card game out of it. It was really cool, really exciting. I got it all funded through private investor and crowdfunded, and it launched, and we were doing pretty well, and then COVID hit 3 months after we launched, and it basically shut our business down overnight. So all I have really are remnants of it. I haven't really had the time to be able to really throw back into it, and it's also been just hard to regrow things after COVID. But if you guys are interested in checking out that game, it's called Birdscapes, and it's on my Etsy shop as well, along next to the camo hats that I'm selling, so you guys can check that out there as well. So it is a cool game. It's very, very cool. And the competition will be great. So yes, definitely stay tuned for that. I'm really, really excited about that. Like I said, we're going to have a lot of money that we're going to be giving away in it. Going to have sponsors sponsoring the event with prizes, and we're going to have one, but we're going to actually do the finalists live reviewed, which is going to be super, super exciting. So, and I'll give you a hint. There's 1 or 2 people in this chat that are actually the judges on the competition. So, but anyways, should be very cool. So we'll do one more question and then I will wrap up. I know I said one more question ago, but we got one other good question. Dwight Batone once said that a wildlife photographer can make a scene to attract a bird. Do I use this trick? I actually don't. I actually never create a scene. I don't have anything against it as long as it's done, ethically. So like, I don't think that throwing a carcass out, unless it's, I guess that's debatable even. So, right, like Neil Jernigan, who's someone I brought on my podcast before, he does camera traps. He took roadkill from the street and moved it into his woods next to his house, set up a wide angle camera trap right there where the turkey vultures were gonna feast on it already. It was a dead piece of roadkill, right? Dead deer, I believe it was. Just moved it into the woods to a nicer scenario and then set up camera traps. I think that's okay because it was already there. He's not adding, something that wouldn't have existed there. He's not relocating it to where it's in an environment that they wouldn't naturally be. So it was all naturally done, right? That type of scene. But if you're going for something like, let's say, taking not already there, like a carcass into the middle of a forest that wasn't already there, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's not my place to judge, but that's not my personal opinion that I would agree with doing something like that, because that can manipulate a lot of bird of prey behavior, so on and so forth. But in terms of setting up perches specifically, like let's say you just set up a nice perch against a nice background, I have nothing against that. Just personally, I like to be very natural in my captures. I like to make sure that what I'm capturing is literally what I came across in nature. And that's just a personal preference. Maybe some day that would change, but all of my photos that you see me capture are photos that I have come across naturally in nature, and I have not manipulated in any sort of way, either by feeding or by changing perches, backgrounds, stuff like that. So I'm always just trying to find the best shots that I can. So that's my kind of response to that. So thanks, Holy Fire. Thanks all you guys for coming on. Have to be nicer than Aaron. Yep. You will, Chris. But thank you guys all for coming on. I have an awesome wildlife photography adventure coming out tomorrow on my main channel. So go ahead and check that out tomorrow. I'm really excited about that one. Has a really cool adventure and story to it. So check that out. Look forward to that tomorrow. And make sure if you haven't, subscribe below. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next time we do a live and the next Bird Burger episode. Peace. If I can stop this.